persons from across the country for the 4th annual review of the Homegrown School Feeding Program to share experiences and successes and also profile solutions to challenges.
The National Homegrown School Feeding Program will soon launch a capacity building exercise for vendors and enumeration of all beneficiaries on the program. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development remains committed to providing the necessary support and the enabling environment for social protection and inclusion policies to grow and take root in the fabric of our nation so that future generations will thrive and succeed in a growingly competitive world.
I urge you all focal persons and program managers, as well as all other stakeholders here present, to continue to support the ministry in the most coordinated way to achieve the mandate of improving the lives of vulnerable Nigerians that are targeted in these programs, especially the Nigerian child.
And as the president of the country has expanded or maybe allowed for the expansion of the program, we hope to see more beneficiaries keying into the program, and we want to see more commitments.
As key players of the program continue their review in the next few days, the expectation is for an improved coordination at all levels towards actualizing the goal of keeping children in schools and reduce poverty. In Abuja.
Well, let's bring you update on COVID-19. 1,444 new infections of the virus have been recorded in 20 states and the FCT. In the figures released by NCDC, Lagos State tops the list with 901, followed by Plateau with 136, then Kaduna with 57, while FCT has 54 new cases. Other states are Ebonyi 53, Akwa Ibom 52, Nasarawa 32, Osun 29, Ogun 28, while Imo and Oyo states have 16 each. 15 in Edo, 14 in Kano, 10 in Rivers, 7 in Ekiti, 6 in Borno, 5 in Abia. Benue and Yobe states have 4 cases each, Kebbi 3, while Anambra State has 2 new infections. So far, Nigeria has 110,387 confirmed cases, with 89,317 patients treated and discharged, while 1,435 have died of the virus. Daily attitude and reaction of Nigerians towards the second wave of COVID-19 has continued to be a source of concern to experts. In this special report, Oyemi Ajayi finds out why some Nigerians take cautions with levity.
Experts have continued hampering the fact that the second wave of COVID-19 is more deadly, dangerous with morbidity faster than the first wave. In Europe and other advanced world, thousands of deaths are recorded daily, despite the availability of vaccines. This new virus unfortunately has found its way to Africa, and Nigeria is also feeling the heat. In the past few days, Nigeria has recorded over 100 new cases daily, despite series of awareness created by the government and others concerned. And that brings about the question of how Nigerians are reacting to the second wave of the pandemic. Why are you not wearing your face mask?
Well, I can't forget it inside motor.
This morning, the population, even in the staff buses, people are not very careful. The only thing you can see is the face mask. Everybody is wearing it. But in terms of physical distance, people are not careful with that.
These have become common excuses for many who have imbibed nonchalant attitude against the virus, despite alarming rates of cases in the country.
I have a doctor friend who says, I think who works in the National Hospital, and confirms that at the National Hospital they're running out of bed space, they can't even contain what's going on. But you see, in the open air, you hardly see what's really going on. So like it's a two-way street. It's real one. So but what I will have to advise is let everyone just take precaution in every way he thinks he can.
But the thing that I think government need to do is enforcement. Enforcement in the sense is that the protocol that has been set out by the NCDC, that every places, especially public places, should be adherence strictly.
Many accused transporters as most culpable for flouting the COVID-19 protocols, as some buses, after conveying the approved 55% capacity in their vehicles, still go ahead to pick up passengers on the roadside, an attitude enforcement agencies say will not go unpunished.
We'll continue to do our job by randomly checking them on the way and enforcing the law. We as we advocate it in the motor parks, we're equally enforcing the law. So overloading is overloading. And if you violate any of the COVID-19 protocols, we punish you appropriately.
As Nigeria awaits the first COVID-19 vaccine to be accepted in the country, Nigerians are enjoined to maintain the COVID-19 safety measures and protocols in order to flatten the curve, which has continued to rise daily. In Abuja, Oyeyemi Ajayi, NTA News.
And talking about vaccines, ECOWAS is fronting a regional strategy to acquire COVID-19 vaccines for the region. Well, this the president of ECOWAS Commission, John Claude Cassibrao, considers as a more beneficial and economic approach to get citizens of the community vaccinated. Let's hear more from Onenge Fineface.
There is a global scramble for vaccines against the ravaging coronavirus pandemic. The United States, China, and some countries in Europe have already begun vaccination of their citizens, and African countries are in a hurry to get doses as well. In a presentation to plenary at the ongoing ordinary session of the ECOWAS Parliament, President of the ECOWAS Commission, John Claude Cassibrao, says a united front to get the vaccine is the best option for the region.
Is to see how we come together and collectively work to address the issue of the vaccine. Because if we do it collectively, we can have better price. Because they'll be buying instead of for each member country trying to buy for a population of 8, 5, 10, 15, 20 million, we buy together for over 300 million, population size of 300 million.
Members of Parliament want improved funding for the West Africa Health Organization to effectively execute the task of regional vaccination against COVID-19.
You cannot have investments, you cannot take care of education and agriculture, food security, if we do not prioritize expenditure on health.
Even if, for example, Nigeria vaccinates its people, if in Guinea or Ghana or Burkina Faso, they have not actually vaccinated their people, we are still the same.
And I'm thinking of malaria. What measures are now being taken to do something about malaria?
ECOWAS Commission also presented the region's monitoring and evaluation policy to Parliament at plenary. Onengiye Fineface, NTA News.
A look at the economy. Economic experts have applauded the tax reductions captured in the Finance Act 2020 to be enjoyed by Nigerians in the wake of the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. During discussions on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria, they also commended the reduction of the VAT on services, while being optimistic that more people and organizations will be brought into the tax bracket to generate more revenue. Lydia Sampson reports.
The Finance Act 2020, Gaston Good Morning Nigeria said, took into consideration the earnings of taxpayers and made amendments on the Finance Act 2019. While the Finance Act 2020, the guests say, is geared towards wooing investors and creating employment, they called for caution in some areas.
Peripherally, it could be seen to help the system. But looking at it from a larger perspective, the automobile industry will be completely dwindled.
Some, on the other hand, believe there is no cause for alarm, as government is not unmindful of diverse reactions to the earth, and it is expected that the annual review will continue to address agitations.
I believe that the thinking behind government policy will have gone through some series of considerations before this was brought about. And I know that the intention of the government is not to kill any industry, but to encourage players in that industry to give it a wider competition for everyone.
The first one has to do with duty on tractors, okay? So that they can more people can have access to be able to buy tractors. Duty on motor vehicle for transport of more than 10 persons. And of course, we have issues around smuggling of vehicles into the country. Why? Because they think that the duty was too high. A lot of people go through Cotonou and Benin Republic, okay? And so the revenue that will have been generated at the Nigerian port have been earned by other countries.
They call for holistic implementation so as not to negate the main objectives of the Finance Act 2020. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the renewal of appointment of Dr. Chidia Madueke as the Managing Director of Nigerian Film Corporation for a second and final term of 4 years. A statement by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, indicates that the appointment takes effect from 31st of March 2021. Dr. Madueke was first appointed in 2017 as the Managing Director of Nigerian Film Corporation. He promised to build ties between the corporation and industry players, both at national and international levels. Also, President Muhammadu Buhari has formally conveyed to the Minister of State, Labour and Employment, Festus Kayamo, approval for nomination of Abubakar Nuhu Fikpo as the Acting Director General of the National Directorate of Employment, pending the appointment of Substantive Director General of the agency. In a statement, the Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, recalled that last month the President relieved the former DG of the agency and directed the Minister of his duties and directed the Minister to nominate an acting DG to superintend over the agency, pending the appointment of substantive DG. All right, let's go on a break. We're back shortly, so you stay tuned.
Social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless. It becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency.
Do you know that 35% of every girl child and women are raped on a daily basis? Some are killed in the process, some take their lives in shame, others remain emotionally dead for life. It is sad. This culture is not ours, definitely not African. How did we allow bad culture to infiltrate and take over? Even if you lack fear for the law, what of fear of God? And you, why do you cover up rape acts when it happens? Remember, a problem shared is a problem half solved. Never cover any rape act because a rapist is a murderer. It could be you or your loved ones next. Women must be treated like the prize gem they are. Say no to rape.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you. In your living room, office, and everywhere, anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview channel 264, or live streaming via www.visiontv.co.uk. Application for iOS or Android. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
Thanks for being there. What is the situation like as schools open in the Center of Excellence? Let's join Michael in Lagos. He's going to guide us.
Thank you, Ruth. As most schools in the country resume classroom activities Monday, the major concern is adherence to COVID-19 safety protocols. Our Yusuf Jibo visited some schools within the Lagos metropolis to monitor students' turnout and safety measures put in place by schools.
At the gate of the school, we saw this banner which says, "No face mask, no entry." This already set the tone for what is to be expected. Hand-washing points were spotted within the school premises, though no student could be seen as they had already settled in for the business of the day.
Becoming what? Whoever has gone to the universities to study pharmacy.
Mansoura Tijani is the principal of Agnus Memorial High School. Monitoring compliance with safety protocols is one of her key duties. Masked up as example to others, she emphasized that the school is doing everything within its means to ensure safety of its students.
So that all students must put on their nose masks, which will ensure that compliance is 100%. Then also washing of hands regularly, we educated them on it, and use of hand sanitizer.
Shomolu Senior High School has the same standards. The students say complying with laid down COVID-19 safety protocols is a strict rule for all.
Provision of social amenities for the COVID-19, like the buckets with running tap for washing hands, hand sanitizers, and sometimes they can offer nose masks to students that don't tend to have.
All the students in the school are using the nose masks, and we are washing our hands always.
These schools and many others in Lagos have started with safety as their watchword. Observers are optimistic that maintaining these standards will significantly discourage the spread of COVID-19 in Nigeria. In Lagos, Awal Yusuf Jibo, NTA News.
Traders affected by the recent fire outbreak at Ijesha Market are still at the scene, searching the rubble with the hope of finding valuables among what is left from the sad incident. Amaka Owo has an update.
This is what is left of 196 Ijesha Market Road. This building was built in the early 1980s, but now is a shadow of itself after the recent fire that razed down the entire building. Owners of the building say that the building has been barricaded for security reasons as they await the Lagos State Building Control Agency to embark on an integrity test on the building. They also say they await a directive of the appropriate authorities before any form of reconstruction can be carried out.
That is why we are even still here this morning. Maybe we can still see something to gather again. We want the government to stand for us so this building can still be like before. More than, even beautiful than before.
We just depend on God and those individuals God is going to use, but mainly speaking, we need help.
And opposite me are petty traders who, for them, life goes on as they have displayed their wares and have begun trading in earnest. From Ijesha Market Road in Mushin local government area of Lagos State, Amaka O, NTA News.
We have more stories on Nationwide, and Ruth is still in Abuja for details.
Michael, thank you. Government and people of Yobe State have renewed their commitment of purpose to continue collaborating with security agencies to fight insecurity and emerging security threats in the state. Now, this was among the resolutions reached at a one-day security stakeholders meeting presided by the Governor Mai Malabuni in the state capital. Yunusa Suleiman reports.
The one-day stakeholder security meeting brought together heads of security agencies, traditional rulers, religious leaders, farmers and herders, vigilantes and hunters, in addition to youth groups, to strategize and agree in principles on how to overcome emerging security threats in the state. Declaring the session open, Governor Mai Malabuni said the meeting followed efforts by the State High-Level Security Conscious and Sensitization Committee, which toured emirate councils and interfaced with relevant stakeholders.
Today's meeting also provides us with an opportunity to assess and conduct a follow-up to the Security Sensitization National Committee to suggest proactive measures of nipping possible threat in the bush well ahead of time.
The meeting dwelled on the findings of the committee as a lot of security issues were raised during the interaction at various council areas, and therefore the decision by government to call the one-day stakeholder security meeting is to adopt practicable and workable strategies to tackle matters associated with security. In the Matru, Yunusa Suleiman, NTA News.
More news on security. Following credible intelligence on bandits at Bungudu local government areas in First State, troops of Forward Operating Base Kekuwuji responded immediately and eliminated 30 bandits while 24 cows and several sheep recovered. Details of recent operations contained in a statement by the Coordinator of Defense Media Operations, Major General John Anecha, indicates that troops deployed at Maradun also responded swiftly to an information on reprisal attack by bandits at Jambako village in Maradun local government area of Zamfara State, killing 5 in the encounter. Similarly, following a tip-off, 2 suspected bandits collaborators were arrested at Dungun Wazu village in Sabua local government area of Katsina State. As part of its corporate social responsibility to host communities, the Federal Road Maintenance Agency, FEMA, engaged some individuals in solar installations, converter maintenance and street lighting in Calabar. Ode Alenyon reports that while the training gainfully empowered youths, communities are also rejoicing over government's installation of street lights aimed at keeping miscreants at bay.
For some time now, residents of Calabar have been living in fear and in a seeming state of insecurity, occasioned by high level of activities of hoodlums and other forms of armed banditry. These actions, many say, were due primarily to lack of some basic facilities, such as functional street lights, to expose activities of social miscreants. That narrative is fast changing because the federal government has not only installed functional street lights, but it has also gainfully engaged youth in ventures such as installation of solar-powered street lights.
This street light will protect, it will be in form of security, that nobody can tamper with those infrastructure and furniture of the road.
We call it install street lights, so that we light up the roads that we maintain, and it has to take care of the various activities at different locations.
This gathering in Calabar attests as participants drawn from the 6 local government areas of the Southern Central District of the state are also being drilled on solar charging control as well as series and parallel charging system.
A lot installation, this training, and with the coming of this solar panel of the thing, I am very, very happy.
I know how to install street lights now. So now I'm engineer Mrs. Basesoro. I'm from Bakassi local government.
The federal government's empowerment through the Federal Road Maintenance Agency continues with practical aspects, including road maintenance, which is one of the policy direction of the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration. In Calabar, Ode Alenyo, NTA News.
Right, our next stop will be Makurdi, and Bem is ready to guide us with more reports. Bem?
Thank you, Ruth, and welcome to Makurdi.
Academic activities have resumed in both public and private schools in Benue State amidst strict observance of COVID-19 safety protocols. Sandra Dowese Akeme reports that there is a low turnout of students at most of the schools visited within the Makurdi metropolis.
Compliance with the state government's directives, schools in Benue State have started welcoming back students for regular academic activities. As part of conditions necessary for school resumption, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 gave directives for school reopening. What is the level of compliance? An assessment of most schools visited shows a high level of compliance, as most of the schools have been disinfected while others are in the process. Some head teachers say they are happy to be back to catch up with the academic calendar, as there's a lot of school work to be done.
For our own school, the learning has started today, because the teachers came back before and they prepared for today.
Any visitor coming here should see us as a body, as an organization, observing government regulations on this pandemic.
The students expressed happiness over the resumption and promised to abide by the protocols and guidelines against COVID-19 while ensuring that their studies will be taken seriously to make up for last time.
We are hoping that we'll be able to cover up for the last 2 weeks that we have missed.
It has been long since I've seen my friends. I was even thinking that maybe if I will resume again to be like maybe like that last time.
To avoid the coronavirus spreading, I need to give social distance and sanitize and always wash my hands.
Following this resumption, it is expected that all the safety guidelines will not only be strictly observed but sustained throughout the academic period to forestall any further damage from the dreaded pandemic. In Makurdi, Sandra Dowese Akeme, NTA News.
Governor Samuel Otom has sworn in Justice Elizabeth Aleje as judge of the customary Court of Appeal. The governor, represented by the Deputy Governor, Benson Abonu, charged her to maintain justice in her new capacity. Charles Abba reports.
I, Elizabeth Aleje, having been appointed as judge of the Court of Appeal in Benue State, hereby solemnly declare, swear and pledge that in the service of my country, I will be faithful and bearing allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The Deputy Governor, Benson Abonu, who described the Benue State Judiciary as one of the finest in the country, urged the newly sworn-in judge of the customary Court of Appeal, Makurdi, Justice Elizabeth Aleje, to ensure speedy dispensation of justice.
Our administration is prepared to do all within its capacity to ensure that not only customary Court of Appeal judges, but the entire judiciary in Benue State is adequately staffed to effectively discharge their responsibilities.
Judiciary is where the common man goes to, where justice is being delivered. I believe with her character, she will live up to expectation.
Justice Elizabeth pledged her commitment to add value to administration of justice in the state. She added that it is high time premium was placed on fair play and truth in governance. In Makurdi, Charles Abba, NTA News.
Armed bandits have killed one Benue State livestock guard and wounded a personnel of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps Agro Rangers in Makurdi. Special Advisor to the Governor on Security Matters, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Himba retired, says the guards were attacked while on patrol. Charles Abba again reports.
The livestock guards, alongside operatives of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps Agro Rangers, were said to be on patrol at Mbala Council Ward within Makurdi when the bandits attacked them. Special Advisor to the Governor on Security Matters, Paul Hemba, explained that one of the guards was shot dead, while an operative of the Agro Rangers sustained bullet wounds around the forehead.
Just laid ambush in the bush as the patrol team was passing. They suddenly opened fire on them, killing one of them instantly, and then injuring the other one badly. For now, no arrest yet. We immediately called on members of Operation Wise Troop. They responded swiftly, but before their arrival, the gunmen had vanished.
Commander, Benue State Livestock Guards, Lionel Zaki, said it happened around 6 p.m. Friday when they were returning after the patrol.
We were coming on motorcycles. We now heard a gunshot, both sides of the road. So we are firing this side of the left and we are also firing the right side. Then I now jumped down with my men. Then we started running.
He, however, expressed his determination to continue to exercise his legitimate duties. This is among several fatal attacks on the livestock guards by armed gunmen in the course of their duties. In Makudi, Charles Abba, NTA News.
That's it from Makudi. It's back to Ruth for the continuation of Nationwide.
Many thanks, Pam. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency is deploying sophisticated measures towards tackling the wave of drug abuse and trafficking in the country. Brigadier General Buba Marwa made the commitment during his maiden press briefing as the new chairman of the agency. Abdulmalik Hassan reports.
Drug abuse and trafficking has negative impact on the society. Experts say it has linked with moral degeneration of youth and adverse consequences on the economy. In 2018, statistics shows that 14.3 million Nigerians between the ages of 15 to 64 involved in different levels of illicit drugs. This, the new chairman promised to tackle with strategic roadmap to be developed from 2021 to 2025, aimed at eliminating the menace of illicit substances.
I would like to today want those who engage in the dastardly trade of importation, export, cultivation, processing, manufacture, trafficking, sale, and consumption of illicit substances to stop forthwith.
The new NDLEA started with a successful interception of 21.9 kilograms of cocaine at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. For now, manhunt has been launched on the peddler. Abdulmalik Hassan, NTA News.
Well, the efforts towards ensuring a drug-free society has continued to take several dimensions. Experts are, however, worried that the outcome is not commensurate to the input. Larita Arinze, in this report, sought to find out why, and efforts of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency in stemming the tide in Imo State.
The attendant consequences of drug abuse and illicit drug trafficking on the society cannot be overemphasized. Many, particularly youths, have lost their means of livelihood to drug abuse. The impact on the economy is not left out, as huge resources are committed to the fight against the criminal act. Describing the situation as worrisome, the State Commander, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Imo State Command, Nsejak, says the year 2020 witnessed increase in arrests as 190 suspects were arrested, while 34 were successfully prosecuted.
The drug abuse situation in Imo State in 2020 was alarming. Honestly speaking, even despite the COVID-19 pandemic in 2019, it's as if the pandemic gave a lot of people the reason to start abusing drugs, having been restricted to their various homes and communities, no movement.
While noting the efforts of the federal and state government in supporting the fight against drug abuse, he says a lot still needs to be done, especially in the area of awareness, funding, and manpower. He assures that officers and men of the Imo State Command have positioned themselves to achieve greater results in the new year and warns perpetrators to desist from drug peddling. While some of the suspects arrested have been cancelled and released, others brought by their relatives are undergoing rehabilitation. In Owerri, Lorita Arinze, NTA News.
All right, let's head to Maiduguri to join Mohammed for some more reports on Nationwide.
Many thanks, Ruth, and welcome to Maiduguri.
1,163 displaced children were enrolled into primary school in Damasak, headquarters of Mobar local government area of Borno State. The enrollment exercise followed back to school campaign personally supervised by Governor Babagana Umar Zulum as part of his 3-day official engagement to the area. Mohammed Goni reports.
Education is one of the 10-fact agenda of the present administration. Hence, government accords priority attention to the sector at all levels. It is for this reason that the state governor embarked on a deliberate strategy of encouraging children enrollment into school to wipe away illiteracy, considered as one of the root causes of insurgency. The governor who supervised the exercise personally registered a sizable number of children into primary 1, while others on the governor's entourage, among other stakeholders of the town, also took part. Similarly, Governor Zulum had interacted with some out-of-school children in the area. As a measure to ensure retention, the governor emphasized that henceforth, government will extend food and other humanitarian support to only parents and guardians who enroll and retain their children in schools.
One of the root causes of the insurgency is lack of education. And therefore, government will do everything possible to ensure that children of this community are being enrolled into primary schools, secondary school, and even into tertiary institutions.
The school dropouts will be readmitted under a special program that will enable them continue their education, while government will look at the possibility of securing placement in various organizations for the graduates, among other indigents with relevant qualifications. Senator representing Borno North, Abubakar Kyari, among other critical stakeholders in the area, bear their minds on the current move by the governor towards education of the young ones and call on parents to avail their children to school. In Maiduguri, Mahmoud Goni, NTA News.
About 10,000 households from Mobar and Abadam local government areas in northern Borno benefited from distribution of food and cash support from the state government. This was during Governor Babagana Umara's 3-day official engagement in Mobar local government area of Borno State. Again, Mohammed Guni reports that Damasak headquarters of the local government hosts IDPs from Abadam local government.
Food items were presented to each male beneficiaries from the two areas, while the female received 5,000 naira each, as well as condiments. Stakeholders and beneficiaries expressed joy over the humanitarian gesture, which they say will address food shortage in the area. Governor Bagana Umara, who was supported by the Chairman State Palliative Committee, Engineer Bikar Talba, said efforts are being made to create enabling environment for them to engage in. Governor Zulum also disclosed that the military high command has given him assurance that security threat along Damaturu-Kareto Road will be addressed, adding that civil authorities has to be established in Kareto as a means to addressing the challenges on the highway. Meanwhile, Governor Zulum, who launched the distribution of farm inputs to 1,200 farmers for 2021 irrigation, said the essence of distributing the farm inputs is to improve food security and the agricultural activities in the state, assuring that government will look into possibility of providing fuel for the water farms.
Federal government, state government, and the local government have been providing relief materials to them in terms of humanitarian support, but it's not sustainable. And therefore, we are here to distribute agricultural inputs so that they can be actively engaged in their agricultural activities.
Mustafa Alajimui, among other beneficiaries, was full of praises to the governor and pledged to be committed to farming activities. Senator representing Borno North, Abubakar Kyari, Borno State Commissioner for Agriculture, Engineer Bikar Talba, as well as Chairman Mobar Local Government, Mustafa Bunukolo, appreciated Governor Zulum for his show of concern to the people of Mobar, particularly the farm inputs extended to farmers, and urged the people not to sell the items. In Maiduguri, Mahmoud Goni, NTA News.
Those are the stories on Nationwide from Maiduguri. Is now back to Ruth in Abuja.
Thank you, Mohammed. And for us, next is a break. So stay tuned.
Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations. edition of TV Guide is out, with special focus on the game changer, His Excellency Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Broadcasting in a digital economy, Maxwell Lobo gives an insight. This edition also features Nancy Naji of AIT, a name synonymous with business. Meet the NCDC boss, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, also x-rays the relevance of social media in the modern society. Meet some TV professionals who have impacted their spaces and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
NTA News 24. A 24-hour news station brings to you news and happenings 7 days a week.
News at 10 a.m., news update at 11 and 1 p.m.
News desk at 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. and late evening news at 11 p.m.
Follow us on any of our platforms and keep abreast of events and current affairs within and outside our shores.
We are on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46,
StarTimes channel 101 and Free TV channel 703. Join us.
A food crisis is brewing, and our tables will soon be empty if the world's population continues to increase and food production decreases.
We're not producing enough for our population.
I will do better if I can get source, financial source.
Catch new episodes of Farm and Fortune every Monday at 5:30 p.m. on NTA Network.
Thanks for staying tuned. All right, let's find out what's the latest news in Enugu as we join Chinenye. Chinenye?
Thank you, Ruth, and welcome to Enugu. Schools in Enugu State reopened today with both students and staff seen observing the COVID-19 safety protocols. Comfort Ayim, who visited some universities, post-primary and primary schools in the early hours of today, reports that some students have already started the first semester examination.
The long-awaited January 18th school resumption date is here. In Esut are already battling with their first semester examination, talking about first-year student. Already the university runs online studies, a move which has also helped in preparing the student for the task. Apart from setting up a COVID-19 monitoring team to ensure total compliance with the safety protocols, Esut is also making plans to install Wi-Fi in all faculties to aid online teaching and learning, as well as avoid large gatherings associated with general studies and other related courses. And the Vice Chancellor says when installed will no doubt go a long way to reduce the burden of data subscription through self-effort.
Global pandemic does not recognize their status, and so we insist that anybody driving into the school has to stop at the gate, and my security people and other staff deployed at the gate will have to inspect the people inside to ensure that at least each of them has a face mask.
From Esut, now in UNEC, from what you can see, activities are gradually returning after the long vacation.
The situation is that we started to plan how to receive our students and how to handle the lectures of them and others so that we can comply with the COVID protocols.
That I'm back to complete what I started since 2015.
Meanwhile, primary and post-primary schools in Enugu have also reopened and COVID-19 safety measures stick to. Comfort IMT News.
In line with the Enugu State Government's Development Trust of opening up the rural communities, the 12-kilometer Emene-Ugwomu Godfrey Okoye University Road has been completed and inaugurated. Governor Ifeanyi Ugwoanyi, who performed the function, restated his determination to continue developing the grassroots. Susan Eze reports.
The 12-kilometer road, being the first asphalted road within the area, is a dream come true for the Ugwomo and other surrounding communities, as well as the Godfrey Okoye University, which has its permanent site in the community. The project, a partnership between the university and the Enugu State Government, began in 2018 following the release of funds by the state government to the university. It was executed using direct labor under the supervision of the university's physical planning department. Happy with the success story of this arrangement with the institution, which he described as partners in progress, Governor Ugwoanyi stated that the road will not only provide easy access to the institution, it will stimulate local commerce and improve the quality of life in the surrounding communities.
Alleviating the sufferings of our people, especially the rural populace, through the provision of critical infrastructure and expansion of economic opportunity has been a major plank of our administration.
The completion of this road, according to the Vice Chancellor, Godfrey Okoye University, marks a new dawn for the institution and the host communities.
With this road, the economic life of all the communities will be improved tremendously and blossom incandescently like flame of the forest.
An excellent service award was conferred on the governor by the benefiting communities to convey their gratitude for the project. In Enugu, Susan Eze, NTA News.
And that is it from Enugu Roots. It's back to you in Abuja.
Thank you, Chinenye. The National Commission for Museums and Monuments has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Olaya family to put an end to all lawsuits concerning the demolition of the national monument Iloja Ba in Lagos. The epoch-making ceremony was witnessed by Adeola Kami Ekare.
The Iloja Bar, originally known as Casa de Fernandes Restaurant and Bar, was built by the Fernandes family of Brazil in 1855 and later sold to Alfred Molano Olaya in 1933. The building, after 100 years, was declared a national monument in 1956. This historic Brazilian-style architecture was demolished by some family members and developers to the Director General of the National Museums and Monuments at the signing of said it is a criminal offense for anyone to demolish a national monument. It appeals to Nigerians to protect monuments in their localities.
So Lagos is a developing city, so therefore I think we need to have a monument there, so knowing the consequences they went and brought this place down.
Representatives of the Olaya family and former Lagos State Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development described the event as the right step in the right direction.
That we have come to this stage, and I think what they were saying that we are supposed to suffer consequences, and I think that this thing has been waived off. This signing of this.
First thing is that it is a plus for both sides. The Olaya can now move ahead, get the structure redeveloped, and then it can yield some economic returns.
The Olaya family also handed over the original angel artifacts that adorned the building to the commission. This public-private partnership will bring on board a newly constructed monument with 7-floor structure and a space for a museum. In Lagos, Adeola Kamiakeri, NTA News.
Right, that's Nationwide today. Many thanks for your company, but let's keep the fight on against rape and rapists. Good evening, I'm Ruth Aguela.
PM. Join us.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Please, I'm on your door. What's my own? And why you didn't knock my door? Please, leave me in peace.
But please don't allow my sister to go to jail. I beg you, please.
I don't agree to do alibi for Balloon.
Thank you very much, ma. I appreciate. Thank you.
That's very thoughtful of you. You see, this will go a long way in helping us get bail for Miss Benue.
We're sending the package to you now.
You're sending another package?
Yes. The baby deserves the best.
But I'm yet to wear the things you bought for me before.
I told you that your dress sense is going to change.
Wait, Nana Fia, been a nephew, been a year with
his naval officer.
Nafa. Cody, if Jennifer divorced, if I just stand like this, go to talk to discipline.
Don't be so, calm down.
Wait.
He no meal now. Say favor breeze, they blow me, and you know they blow your side. Say light, don't they shine on top me, and you dey inside darkness. Now life, nah, no need to feel sad.
Cause these days you want planting sheets, I beg. I know say now you're too off, but please help me to bought it. Supermarket inside it here.
Auntie Jennifer, I'm not in the estate at the moment.
Who get the car with this in any conference? Say be say no they have. You don't go borrow one car, pack up. For me, they go.
Wait. I think I know the owner of this car.
Who's there?
It's me, Cordelia.
Auntie Cordelia.
Timini, open the door. I just want to drop something for you.
I'm coming.
Why are you shaking? Fine, I'll just button up while you go open the door for her.
No, not just that. You have to hide.
Hide? No, stop. No, before you go ahead, I'll feed you everything to me. I have you on my camera. Madam, as you open your jack, I start recording it.
Auntie Jennifer.
Come open the door.
Auntie Jennifer.
Please stay tuned.
Reporters here in the hall and those in various remote locations who have tied in to join us. Today is Monday, the 18th of January, 2021. On behalf of the PTF, I want to welcome everyone to today's national briefing. At this point, may I please invite the chairman of PTF and the secretary to the government of the Federation to make his opening remarks. SGF, please.
Honorable Ministers, members of the Presidential Task Force, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, let me start by apologizing for our inability to start the press briefing by 5 o'clock. We had a lot on our plate. However, I welcome you to the national briefing by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 for Monday, the 18th of January, 2021. You will recall that at the last national briefing, we unveiled the new schedule of briefings, which shall now hold every Monday of the week. You will also recall that the Presidential Task Force had informed you of the resumption of schools nationwide, that would be reviewed due to the rising daily numbers of infections and the challenges of case management, especially the shortage of oxygen, so that we do not allow our facilities to be overwhelmed. While we note that several states have proceeded with the resumption of schools, the PTF recommends strongly that very strict adherence to non-pharmaceutical interventions should be enforced by the states to avoid the escalation of cases. The Presidential Task Force will continue to dialogue with the governors and the Federal Ministry of Education to closely monitor the situation and, if need be, review that decision. The snapshot of our nation as at 17th January 2021, which ought to guide our decisions and approach, is as follows. Cases recorded so far, 110,387. Active cases, 22,156. That's about 20.34%. Discharged, 89,317, representing 78.36%. Fatalities, unfortunately, 1,435, about 1.30%. Tests conducted so far, 1,172,234. And the spread of the virus is in all 36 states plus the Federal Capital Territory. I wish to note particularly, however, that in week 2 of 2021, the statistics revealed the following. Cases recorded 10,300. Deaths, unfortunately, rose to 77 in number. Active cases, 19,635, just in 1 week, week 2nd. All these numbers represent increases compared with the numbers from week 1 of 2021. The DG, Nigerian Center for Disease Control, will elaborate on this. On the African continent, South Africa and Nigeria continue to report highest daily count, while South Africa, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Algeria, and Kenya account for 76% of all cases in the region. Nigeria has moved up to 3rd position in highest cumulative case load, but remains 2nd for new cases and 5th highest in cumulative deaths on the World Health Organization African region. From the foregoing, testing has proved to have become more significant in our national response. The Presidential Task Force still urges the state governments to enable their EOCs to step up on sample collection and to maximize the capacities of the PCR laboratories already established in their states. The Presidential Task Force has also authorized the Nigerian Center for Disease Control to immediately implement the 450 tests per local government plan nationwide immediately. We are aware that states are not on the same pedestal in the area of testing. We shall begin with states that are in the forefront of resourcing and infrastructure. So not all states will be on the same page. The Presidential Task Force wishes to emphasize the need for all segments of the society to get involved in risk communication, community engagement, in our continued collaboration with the religious and traditional rulers, we align with the statements issued by the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, guiding the sick and the elderly on the need to avoid large gatherings by staying at home. We are optimistic that other institutions will follow suit as we progress. The positive news about vaccines remains high in the ranking of discussions nationwide. Nigerians are assured that the PTF will ensure that the vaccines to be approved will be safe and effective. We must, however, work together as foot soldiers in the vaccine advocacy so that we can eliminate the pandemic. The PTF wishes to emphasize that the success of our national response shall not depend on vaccines alone. Rather, compliance with the non-pharmaceutical protocols must remain top on our individual priorities. We are making progress with case management under our national response. The national response continues to receive the support of the private sector in the delivery of medical oxygen to the various facilities. At the same time, funds for the rehabilitation of existing oxygen facilities have been released to the various institutions, particularly the ones in Abuja. There is also in process and in motion to ensure the construction of at least one oxygen facility in each state of the Federation. Before I close, let me remind you that the pandemic is raging and all tiers of government and citizens must keep their hands on deck. We are in a difficult situation in which a balance must continue to be struck between lives and livelihood. We are considering all options while hoping that broad cooperation will be received from our citizens. We must do everything possible to avoid a second lockdown in Nigeria. Finally, the Presidential Task Force is proceeding with the next phase of the approved presidential sanction against all inbound international travelers that failed to undergo the 7-day post-arrival test. The Presidential Task Force will publish the next list of 100 defaulters very soon. Let me clarify, however, that there is a strong multi-sectoral approach to activities, decisions, and engagement of the Presidential Task Force with institutions of government and the public. Consequently, all steps being taken are outcomes of in-depth consultations and review before they are made public. I now have the honor to invite the Honorable Minister of Health, followed by the DG NCDC, and thereafter the representative of the National Coordinator to update you on these other technical aspects of the briefing. I thank you for your listening and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Honorable Ministers, Directors General, Permanent Secretaries, Representative of the National Coordinator, ladies and gentlemen of the press. The number of new COVID-19 cases has continued to rise in Nigeria, such that we confirmed 10,300 cases from just 50,750 samples tested in 1 week, translating to 20% positivity rate, which means that 1 of every 5 persons tested last week turned out positive, compared to the previous week, which had a positivity rate of 14%. Our total number of confirmed cases stands, as already said just now, at 110,387 of a total of 1.172 million samples tested, with a cumulative positivity rate of 9.4%. 1,444 cases were recorded in the past 24 hours, with sadly 77 deaths in the past week, and total fatality of 1,435. It is instructive of the second wave of COVID-19 that all cases recorded so far in January make up about 20% of all confirmed cases we have in Nigeria, more than the whole of December, and barely halfway through the month. There is no question that we are deeply into the second wave of the pandemic, which requires that the PTF and Federal Ministry of Health will review strategies to respond to the challenge and take additional necessary measures to check this case deluge that can threaten our health system's capacity to cope. Federal Ministry of Health is outlining 3 approaches to confront the pandemic. The first being the infection mitigation, which we have been doing up till now, which we intend to strengthen. Second being therapeutics, and the third being the vaccines. Reducing infection rate for COVID-19 remains the easiest, cheapest objective of government, whose main effort is to ensure social mobilization for testing, strengthening surveillance activities for early detection, active contact tracing, isolation, and treatment risk communication. However, implementation of the critical non-pharmaceutical measures requires much more cooperation from the public. Therefore, we expect more adherence to wearing of masks, social distancing, use of sanitizers, etc., much more than we are seeing today. Social distancing is of special concern, especially with regard to the risk of so-called super spreader activities that involve congregational settings, which must be reduced, restricted, or perhaps even prohibited in the interests of the common good. With regard to therapeutics, we are striving to reduce mortality from the disease by ensuring adequate stock of supplies and strengthening our case management capacity. Case fatality has dropped to about 1.3%, but that is no comfort given the volume. And in this regard, the Ministry of Health is working to expand oxygen availability across the country, as strategized by the PTF, to address shortages which have been a challenge globally, and also to review the value of various pharmaceuticals and protocols proposed for COVID-19 treatment. Clinicians are urged to work out guidelines for participating in clinical studies for ivermectin, which is in the news presently. The Honourable Minister of State and I joined in a virtual meeting of the Federal Ministry of Health Case Management Pillar a few days ago, which provided us an opportunity to actually interact with those out in the field managing cases in the isolation centers. Gaps and challenges were identified and they are clearly being addressed. Such meetings are held regularly to ensure quality of care in our treatment centers and also to provide a platform for case managers to compare notes with each other on treatment approaches. The clinicians have been advised to respect the national interim guidelines for management of COVID-19 cases, bearing in mind their discretion, clinician discretion as novel treatment options are evaluated. I want to use this opportunity to appreciate the effort of our frontline workers for the great work they are doing in the face of all these challenges, which we are handling as well as any other country. I assure you that government will provide all necessary support to facilitate quality care at all centers. On vaccines, we are exploring all options available to us for the acquisition of approved vaccines for Nigeria. We are hopeful that our arrangement with COVAX to provide the first consignment of vaccines will work out soon if they arrive in the country within the next few weeks. But apart from this COVAX facility, which is built to cover 20% of our population, we plan to increase our chances of getting enough vaccines to meet the country's need to cover an additional 50% of the population. Nigeria is participating in the African Union initiative called African Vaccine Availability Task Team, which reports directly to the African Union chairman, the President of South Africa, and has secured 270 million doses of various vaccines for Africa. Bearing in mind the options suitable for our environment and our available infrastructure as well as investment in delivery, Nigeria has written to express interest in 10 million doses of this viral vector vaccine, which could be supplied possibly from March 2021. Preparation for COVID-19 vaccine requires that countries determine criteria for prioritization and develop a robust vaccine distribution strategy, and also identify vaccine administration sites and teams, which the NPACDA is doing very thoroughly at this time. It also requires that countries develop a procurement, supply chain, and distribution plan for commodities and devices that will be used along for the vaccines, as well as a sustainability plan. We are already working on that for the time when vaccines begin to arrive. Tomorrow, the 19th of June, the Federal Ministry of Health will organize a national vaccine conference as part of our preparations to mobilize our experts, role players, development partners, and stakeholders to create a unified and strategic front for the provision of vaccination of Nigerians against COVID-19. The conference will also provide a platform for deliberation on our COVID-19 response strategy, especially at this time of spiking cases. We shall engage all Federal Ministry of Health agencies, especially NAFDAC, NCDC, state governments, religious, traditional community leaders in plans for vaccine rollout, since their role is critical to the orderly and successful deployment. We must also be able to reach out to those eligible to receive vaccines anywhere in the country. The Ministry of Finance has released 10 billion naira to support domestic vaccine production. While we are working to develop our own vaccines, Nigeria is exploring options of licensed production in collaboration with recognized institutions, and we're also exploring the option for local production of vaccines. We are in discussion with one or two producers already through the government's own BioVaccine Limited. There are reports of claims by some persons in Nigeria to have the COVID-19 vaccine for sale within our country here. I advise all citizens to disregard these claims. They are not genuine. Some of them may be criminal. There are procedures for vaccine acquisition and use, which include appropriate regulation and certification by NAFDAC. I advise against fake vaccines, as there is no vaccine approved yet for use in Nigeria, and the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency is the only authorized vaccine administrator in Nigeria. No other person or group should be given this injection. Finally, I want to remind all that the prospect of vaccines arriving soon is cheering, but the importance of the non-pharmaceutical measures remains critical to prevent infections. You are not free from the day you start getting vaccines from non-pharmaceutical interventions. Non-pharmaceutical interventions have to go hand in hand with vaccines for a very long time. So therefore, wear your mask, wash your hands regularly, use sanitizers, avoid close contacts, avoid crowded places, and if you have symptoms like cough, difficulty in breathing, sudden loss of taste and smell, or if you have a fever, please get tested. Again, let me repeat that the availability of vaccine does not mean the end of other measures that we are taking. Thank you for your attention.
Chair of the Presidential Task Force and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Honorable Ministers, Permanent Secretaries, WR, my colleagues, gentlemen of the press, good evening. Today, the 18th of January, in the last 1 week, we have continued our response activities across the country. Last week, across the country, 100,000 tests were carried out in Nigeria, the highest number of tests done in a single week since the beginning of the outbreak. So the response continues. We extended the deployment of teams to many states, to Kaduna State, to Plateau State. They have been there since the Christmas period, since the beginning of the second wave. Like you know, we've also announced a new short code, 6232, through which members of the public can reach the NCDC Connect Center free of charge. This has been supported by the Nigerian Communications Commission, so we're very grateful to our colleagues that worked with us over a 5 to 6 month period to make this happen. But finally we have it. It's also interconnected with all the other emergency lines that we have, the 112 line. So 6232, the old 0800 number is still functioning. We'll keep it for a few more months because many of you have it saved on your phones, but we will eventually all migrate to 6232. However, my main focus today will be on the role of the private sector in Nigeria's COVID-19 response activities. In the first area I want to talk about is the deployment of rapid diagnostic test kits. Firstly, I'd like to announce that we have now developed some new guidance on the use of rapid diagnostic tests in Nigeria, targeting primary congregate settings. So schools, workplaces, NYSC camps, you know already, military camps, wherever people gather together, we're going to be deploying the use of RDTs. We've started the rollout specifically in hospitals today. In 5 tertiary hospitals are being consulted with in FCT today. The 3 federal establishments and 2 state tertiary hospitals, Maitama and Asokoro. Our goal is to roll this out to all tertiary hospitals in Nigeria from February. But these guidelines are not just for our procurement. We're also encouraging state governments, the private sector, whoever wants to deploy them. These guidelines are now available on our website. It gives you very in detail, a lot of details on what RDT tests to procure, the process for testing, how you need to set up the infection prevention and control standards you need to use if you're using it, the minimum personnel involved, the data flow, and critically, we have an algorithm to use in terms of how to interpret the test and how to link back into PCR testing if it's needed. So we think that with the deployment of rapid diagnostic test kits broadly in Nigeria, we will rapidly even further scale the testing in Nigeria and make sure we find as many cases as possible and link them into care. In addition, You will remember that when we started this response, we had 4 key strategies on testing. One was the open PCR platforms, which we have enabled their deployment across the country. Secondly, were the high throughput labs that were serving the HIV program for many years. Thirdly, was the deployment of gene expert labs, testing facilities primarily used for TB, which we now converted for COVID with some adaptations. And thirdly was the role of the private sector labs. Now, you recognize that in many countries like Nigeria, the private sector actually provides a significant proportion of essential healthcare services altogether to the population. So between January 2020 and 2021, we have activated in total 112 labs with the capacity to test for COVID in Nigeria, 112 so far. Of these 112, 74 are public sector labs, owned and fully funded by various arms of government, while 38 are in the private sector. 33 are completely private sector labs, while the others are kind of part of corporate labs, such as NNLG, Total, all have supported labs that are also serving the population communities around them. Unfortunately, we have not fully optimized the capacity we have in our private sector yet. Several countries have also devolved testing to the private sector largely. If you look at South Africa, 60% of all the tests done right now, done all together since the beginning of the outbreak in South Africa, are done by private sector labs. So we have to push a little bit harder. In Nigeria, 30% of our over 1 million tests have been done in the private sector. The public sector obviously still bears the burden of testing. And we think, yes, there are people for whom we will consistently develop the public sector testing. That will continue to happen. But the private sector can serve also a large part of the population, as it has done for many years and for many other conditions. So the rising number of COVID-19 cases and the need for testing provides an opportunity for the private sector to get more involved. So what we have done is created a framework for effective private sector participation. We have developed a framework exactly how you get tested. We will come and support your activation for free. We'll send a team anywhere in the country to support you if you want to set up a private lab. At the moment, of the 33 private labs in the country, 18 are in Lagos alone. 18 are in Lagos, 9 are in the FCT, and the other few labs are set up in only 5 states. We want to broaden this, and we're calling on the private sector to take on this challenge, set up these labs. Yes, we're working very hard to get vaccines into the country, but there will be a consistent need for testing for the next year or two, and probably even into the future. So there's a real opportunity for you to support the work being done by the federal government. So as we continue to scale, there's an opportunity for the private sector to get involved, support the work we're doing to make testing more available to every Nigerian. The final area I wanted to touch on a bit was on the reopening of schools. The Federal Ministry of Education has led of this, obviously, and has worked very hard. Understandably, there's been a lot of anxiety across the country today as children return to schools in many states. In addition to my role in NCDC, I'm a parent, and this morning too I saw my 2 children start school with the same anxieties that any other parent would have had today. But it is important to remember that there's no such thing as no risk. Risk is always about mitigation. There's no perfect solution. We have to manage risk. Every day we wake up to go to school, to go to work. When we go to church, when we go outside, there are risks involved. The challenge is how do we manage that risk and how do we work together to mitigate the risk that we face. So the holistic set of actions that we've worked with the Ministry of Education to implement. We started this last year when they reopened schools the first time, worked with them to develop a set of guidelines. We're now working with them, supporting them to review these guidelines, work with the schools, the states across the country to enable a safe reopening of schools. At the same time, always watching the situation. The risk in schools is not the same in Lagos versus Maiduguri. They're not the same in township areas versus in rural areas. So there are many levels that have to be considered, and it's why WHO always encourages us to have a risk-based approach to the reopening of schools. So that's what we have started. None of these decisions are fixed in stone. The Federal Ministry of Education with all the state ministries will continue looking through this, advise the PTF on what to do, and collectively we will always try to make the best decisions in the best interest of most Nigerians. So to protect our children and students, families, teachers, school staff, and everyone in the community must work together. School administrators have a critical role to play in ensuring that classes are well ventilated, children are reminded to wash their hands, there's hand washing facilities available, and critically, that there is sustained communication between parents and teachers in order to take collective responsibility for the work that we're doing. In boarding schools, please ensure that you have a clear mechanism to ensure that when children do have symptoms, there's a place identified to put them in and have a number to call. You understand the health facilities around you, your public health department, understand what needs to be done when you actually have a case that might be COVID, so you can activate testing. So I want to really assure all Nigerians across the country that we will continue working together, all of us on the PTF, with the Federal Ministry of Education in leadership on this issue, and make sure that we try to continue making the best decisions for our children. In conclusion, we must recognize that we continue to face other outbreaks. We've just deployed a team to Benue State to respond to a cholera outbreak. This is the period of the year where Lassa cases begin to increase, so we mustn't drop our eyes from other balls and make sure that we continue to do the work that we're doing across every state in Nigeria to keep the country safe. These guidelines and all the other guidelines that we produce are available on the NCDC website, covid19.ncdc.gov.ng. Thank you very much.
We thank you, the DG NCDC. May we now invite the representative of the National Coordinator, Dr. Mukhtar Mohammed, to the podium.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Honorable Ministers, Director Generals, members of the press, good evening. My name is Mukhtar Mohammed. I'm the National Incident Manager for the PTF, and I here stand forth for the National Coordinator. One of the decisions that the PTF took about a month ago, last year, was to increase testing in the country. The chairman had mentioned that we are going to have a testing drive whereby all the states will be engaged to increase the number of testing that they are doing. I'm glad to inform you now that the PTF has agreed that testing drive will commence in all states and all local governments are expected to participate. We expect every local government to test samples of between 400 to 500 samples in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We are working with the state government, both the state governors and the Honorable Commissioners of Health, to ensure that funding and logistics arrangement are put in place to ensure that we are able to optimize testing everywhere in the country. This has become critical due to the rising number of cases. And we know that without testing, we will not be able to define our epidemic properly. If we don't test, we may not be able to detect those that are positive. we may not be able to identify those that would require isolation and get treatment. The small fires that are started with little infections will progress into large fires and eventually become inferno and consume many. It is therefore in this direction that we have come out with this protocol and implementation strategy that advise all the states to commence this activity as soon as possible. As I said earlier, we are working with the states, and states that are ready will have this activity commenced. We have urged the states to support the implementation of technical staff that will be visiting them from the NCDC and the Federal Ministry of Health anytime from next week to ensure that this activity goes unhindered. Regarding the airport travel protocol, we have noticed also a great improvement in the level of compliance by international travelers arriving in Nigeria. You will recall that the PTF was forced to sanction defaulters of the established travel protocol by placing them on a 6-month travel restriction. As a standard practice, that public notices are issued by arms of government on important issues, the PTF, after consultation with relevant agencies, published the names of the first 100 defaulters and subsequently reached out to a large number of those affected with the view to resolve their complaints. These public notices in print and digital media are in alignment with the Media Code and ethics for reaching the public with information, and in this case, improving compliance with the travel protocol. The overall aim is not to punish, but to get travelers to comply with the protocol that we have already put in place. And we have started noticing a great improvement in compliance and testing following the sanction that has been published. We will be publishing the list of another 100 persons who have defaulted. This time, these are people who have failed to book their second test in the laboratories. This will be communicated to you as soon as it is done. We therefore urge everyone to continue to adhere to restrictions and to the protocol put in place in order to slow down the spread of infection. In a related development also, we have commenced intensifying activities in the maritime sector with a view to have better control and containment in that area. A special task team on COVID-19 for the Niger Delta and maritime sector was inaugurated, and we have the protocol developed for implementation in both the formal and informal waterways. It includes all the states in the Niger Delta and the riverine areas. The membership includes rivers, Delta, Edo, Cross Rivers, Imo, Akwa Ibom, Ondo, and Bayelsa. We have government agencies to support them, NIMASA, NNPC, Shippers Council, and we also have representation from the Nigerian Navy and the Operation Delta Safe. The committee will be led by distinguished Senator Enang Eta, Special Assistant to the President on the Niger Delta. With the implementation of this protocol, we intend to implement more testing along the waterway corridors with a view to identifying people who are coming without PCR test, and also to offer them the opportunity to test and also have isolation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mukhtar Mohammed, standing in for the National Coordinator. Well, we really need to send this message down to the grassroots. And to help us do this, may I please invite the Honorable Minister of Environment. You have this podium.
Mr. Chairman, members of PTF, ladies and gentlemen of the press, good evening. Again from the Federal Minister of Environment. Ours has been advocacy right from the start of this pandemic, and also the use of our environmental health officers at hotspots where we need to educate people to avoid contracting the disease. We are continuing with that in collaboration with other MDAs, of course, Ministry of Health, NCDC, the NOA, and so many others, including NGOs and civil society organizations. The whole purpose is to educate people and get them to understand the gravity of the disease and what to do to avoid being infected. Unfortunately, during this second wave, the infection rate seemed to be even worse than the first time, and so we're improving our advocacy to do that. And usually we'll take this to most vulnerable places like motor parks, like train stations and the likes. Now, schools, some schools have reopened or are reopening. Last week I was asked whether we will do the same decontamination as we have done before the examinations, WAEC examinations, before the reopening of the unity schools. Well, unfortunately, the way the schools were opened, or being open, we were unable to do that. However, we are using advocacy, our environmental health officers, to make sure that they put in place surveillance team and also the proper way for the student to avoid getting this COVID by, of course, observing the protocol in the guidelines. I will just briefly speak in Hausa at this point. Jama'a assalamu alaikum. Kuma mun sake dawowa akan wannan magana na coronavirus, wato annobar corona. Mun gaya muku dai har ila yau tana nan kuma tana ci gaba, tana ƙara haɓaka. Wannan shine abin tsoro kuma abin damuwa ne kwarai da gaske. Domin wancan makon, kusance mako uku da suka wuce, mun gaya muku a cikin sati ɗaya an samu 5,000. To wancan makon wajen 9,000. Wannan makon da ya wuce sama da 10,000 sababbi sun ƙaru. Wannan abu ne wanda yake ya kamata a duba. Kuma har a zuwa yanzu gaba ɗaya waɗanda suka kamu a wannan ƙasar tamu sama da 100,000 yanzu haka. Waɗanda suka mutu 1,433. Daga ciki makon da ya wuce mutum 77 suka mutu. Wannan abu ne wanda yake baya haka bai faru ba. To ya kamata fa mu san cewa wannan abin da gaske take yi, in kuma bai wani abu akai ba, to za ta ci gaba da haɓaka. Allah kuma dai ya kiyaye. Ya zama wajibi ka kare kanka, ka kare kuma waɗansu. Ta yaya za ka kare kanka? Shine ta sa wannan takunkumin na wajen wanke hannu, ka guji tarurruka na rintsi. Har ila yau mu'amala a tsakanin mutane ya zamana ana ba da tazara. Alamun wannan cuta har yanzu shine dai zazzabi, tari, kuma tari mara majina kamar da ake cewa tarin huka, kuma har ila yau atishawa. To a yanzu lokaci ne ba wai babu cututtukan da suke kawo tari ko atishawa ba, amma tun daga wannan cutar idan ka ji irin waɗannan alamun ana baka shawara nan da nan ka je ka gwada, ka san cewa ba ita bace, don saboda ka magance abin da yake damunka. Saboda ita wannan cutar aka gane ta tun wuri, to fa an fi iya warkar da ita. Duk da har a yanzu ba wai magani kwaya ɗaya da zaka sha a ce an tabbatar zai warkar, amma har ila yau ana warkarwa. Yanzu haka daga cikin sama da mutum 100,000 da suka kamu, sama da mutum 70,000 sun samu lafiya, an sallame su. Amma kuma a kullum ana kamuwa saboda ba ma yin abin da ya kamata. To rigakafi kwanaki mun yi magana, kuma a yanzu ma an yi magana a cikin turanci. An ba da dama shugaban ƙasa a nemi rigakafin nan, kuma muna sa ran Allah yadda nan da 'yan makonni kaɗan zai fara shigowa nan ƙasanmu Najeriya. To wannan rigakafi ne wanda yake a tsarin kimiyya an duba shi, an tantance, an tabbatar abu ne da ba zai cutar da al'umma ba. Kada wani ya zo rinka cewa mutane a'a ai wannan an yi shi ne dan kaza a'a. A ƙungiyar kiwon lafiya ta duniya gaba ɗaya ta duba ta amince da cewa tsarin da aka bi a tsarin kimiyya wannan magani rigakafi an yadda a yi amfani da shi, kuma akwai ma'aikata ta musamman kiwon lafiya ta musamman wanda su ne kaɗai aka ba hakkin yin wani abu da rigakafi ko yin mutane allura. Kada wani an ce rigakafi ya shigo wani ya kafa tebur a wani guri ya ce maka ka zo ga rigakafi, kada ka yadda wani ya dankara maka alluran da ba ita bane, maimakon garin samu kiba a samu rama. Saboda haka ana neman haɗin kan al'umma idan wannan lokaci ya zo. Har ila yau shugaban ƙasa kuma Muhammadu Buhari ya ƙara ma bayar da kuɗi wajen biliyan 10 domin mu ma kanmu mu ƙoƙarin bincike da kuma ƙirƙiran tamu rigakafin kamar yanda waɗansu ƙasashe suka yi yanzu haka. To muna kira ga ɗalibai a makarantu su hattara, domin baya makarantar akwai wata jami'a a America da ta buɗe lokacin ma da aka fara da farko, cikin ɗan lokaci kaɗan wajen mutum 1000 suka kamu. Abin da yasa nake faɗan wannan dan saboda a yi hattara, abu ne wanda yake ba za mu so mu ga ya faru a nan ba. To kuma me zai hana shi faruwa shine bin ƙa'idoji da ya kamata a bi. Muna kira ga duk kowa da kowa ya ɗauki nauyi ya kare kanshi, shine zai zama na mun kare kanmu mun kare kowa da kowa. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Environment. Let us now invite the Executive Director, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shoaib, to now discuss with us on vaccines. Dr. Shoaib.
The Chairman of the PTF and the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Honorable Ministers, Director Generals, Permanent Secretaries, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. The federal government is determined through the Presidential Task Force to stop the spread of the virus in Nigeria by accessing WHO-approved vaccines, which will be administered free of charge at government-designated and some private health facilities. We have developed a comprehensive national COVID-19 vaccine deployment and vaccination plan. We have also developed an operational manual to roll out the vaccine when they become available. While we continue to observe the preventive measures of wearing face masks, washing hands regularly, sanitizing and observing physical distance, we encourage all Nigerians to get vaccinated when vaccines become accessible, as the benefits of the vaccines far outweigh the potential side effects. The chances of spreading the disease is significantly reduced once community members are vaccinated and protected, owing to the fact that the vaccine triggers an immune response that will protect your body against the virus if encountered. Please note that taking the vaccine will not only protect you, it will also protect your loved ones and community members against the COVID-19 disease as we work towards developing herd immunity. There currently seems to be growing vaccine hesitancy, and this is largely caused by misinformation, leading to mistrust, doubt, suspicions, and conspiracy theories. We urge the public to disregard such misrepresentation from unverified sources and listen to the medical experts for confirmed information. It is important to note that vaccines, including COVID-19 vaccines, are manufactured under strict compliance with WHO guidelines. Therefore, COVID-19 vaccines do not contain any harmful substance or microchip and does not alter human genetic information. Furthermore, any vaccine coming to Nigeria will be tested by NAFDAC and certified safe for human use before it is administered. We would like to assure all Nigerians that this verification exercise will also be applicable to the COVID-19 vaccine, and NAFDAC will continue to monitor the efficacy of the vaccine even after its administration to ensure proper documentation of any side effects. I want to reiterate that the first set of vaccines expected in the country is the Pfizer-BioNTech mRNA vaccines, and equipment that are required to store them, that is the ultra-cold chain equipment for storage of the vaccines, are available at the National Strategic Cold Store of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. I will invite members of the